For all of human history, your eyes were the final source of truth. But that's not true anymore. We're living in a society where seeing something happen is no longer proof that it happened. Every time I open my comments here on YouTube or Instagram or wherever it may be, I'm getting accused of being AI. Now, I know I'm not AI, but that's not the point. The point is that so many people are looking at a real person and genuinely questioning whether or not it's real or fake just because of how much they cannot believe anymore. Now, I can't sit here and blame anybody for saying these things. I can't sit here and get upset. I have no room to do that. But I just want you to think about how crazy that is for a second. Let's just use my favorite word, insane. How insane that is for a second. We've reached a point in reality where reality itself is questionable, where the everyday average person can't even be believed because almost nothing can be believed online anymore. And if people can no longer believe a simple YouTube video that they see online, what happens when the government gets involved? What about elections? Even though we all know that those are rigged anyways. But what about wars? What about when wars are involved? Or when someone wants to destroy your reputation? Let's get into it. I remember early last year, it's crazy, it's only been a year, but early last year, Kate Middleton had disappeared from the online space for a while. And I think it was because people were saying she had some cancer or something like that. Now, I'm not completely sure on the new details on the situation, but I remember listening to Andrew Tate and his brother on their podcast on Rumble, and they were breaking down the whole situation, and I believe that it was exposed that the Middleton family or the British government had released a completely AI-generated video of Kate Middleton announcing a statement saying that she was okay, that she was taking time away. But people realized really quickly that it was an AI video. And that might not seem like a big deal in me speaking right now, but it was a big deal because people found out about it. And they had also released an image of Kate Middleton smiling with her children that was also AI generated. And this was exposed. Like, they got caught for lying. The government of England had gotten caught lying. And they just kind of said, I'm sorry, guys, you caught us. We did do it. They admitted to it. And then I believe they blamed Iran in some type of way. But the moral of this example is that what happens when governments start using AI to manipulate their population, to control their population? That's crazy to think about, right? Well, it's happening. And who knows how much it is happening. I mean, go back and look at that video that I'm talking about. I think it's from January 2025. That video was pretty good. I mean, usually when I scroll Instagram, I can pretty much spot an AI-generated video that I'm aware of. But back then, a year ago, the government already had their hands on technology that was almost undetectable. There were a few anomalies in that video that kind of exposed it to be false, but that was a whole year ago. Imagine the technology that they have access to now. I mean, imagine the technology the everyday Joe Schmo has here on YouTube. Here that they can make women making videos. It's a guy doing that and running the whole page. That's pretty good technology. If we, the public, has access to that, can you even comprehend or begin to comprehend and understand the access the government has to these technologies? The types of access? We're really witnessing for the first time ever the death of objective reality. I mean, a photo used to equal evidence, and a video equaled proof, and an audio equaled proof. But now none of those things are reliable. Just imagine a politician on video. They get caught doing something. I mean, I'm pretty sure we've already kind of experienced this year. I am sure that there's been multiple cases of this happening already, but imagine a politician gets exposed, they get caught. They're just going to say it's AI. And I mean, this is really just a perfect situation for them, a perfect storm, and I'm sure that it was already calculated years ago for this to happen on this timeline. I'm sure of that, but I know there's a lot of people here on the internet that aren't aware of that and haven't thought about that. Even if these bad situations are true now, it's going to be impossible to verify. It's really just the end of trust. Trust is the invisible glue of a civilization, but without trust, what do you have? Nothing. I mean, I've made videos before about how they are purposely pinning the man and the woman against each other to break apart the family, household, and society eventually, because when you have weak men and masculine women, you have no society, but on top of that, you have no trust in your government. So what happens? Well, when you can make the citizens and the civilians of your country question everything, question their gender, question their role in society, question each other. Every single thing you could possibly imagine becomes manipulatable. Everything becomes debatable. Everything becomes political because civilizations generally operate optimally whenever they can agree on what's real, whenever they can agree. But when you have no trust, you have no agreement. I think the internet was just a phase one, if that makes any sense to you guys. Internet was used to create and get us used to the idea of misinformation, and I believe that I know that AI is the beginning of a synthetic reality. It's honestly terrifying because AI exploits the evolution that life has given us humans. Humans aren't psychologically ready for this, so I'm not really sure what to expect the outcome to be. I know it's not going to be a good outcome, but we were taught to trust faces, voices, our eyes. But when you can strip away all the human senses and manipulate them and make you question yourself, we're going to fall apart. The moment people stop believing what they see is the moment that whoever controls the world has ultimate access to manipulating your full reality. I think about, on the small scale, my day-to-day life, seeing this happen, of people mindlessly falling into the trap of AI, and that is my older relatives. If I go over to their house, they'll be scrolling on Facebook, and it's innocent. This might not seem like a danger to you guys listening, but they will genuinely be giving attention and time to watching AI-generated videos because they don't know they're fake. And to me, that is terrifying because I think one of the most valuable things us humans hold is our time and our energy and what we give our attention to. And now so many humans are giving away their free time, free energy, free attention to AI slop. And they don't even know it's AI. That is crazy. You as a human being have control over one thing. And correct me if you think I'm wrong. But I have come to believe that you have control over one thing, and that one thing only is your mind. You have control over your mind. It says many times in the Bible to protect your mind. That is a very emphasized part of the Bible spread throughout, is to protect your mind, control what goes into your mind. When you can't even believe what you see, how can you protect your mind? How? They're trying to strip away any ounce of control you have over yourself. They want to harvest your energy, your time, your attention. They want you to be sucked and glued into the machine. It's kind of like the movie The Matrix. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong again here. I believe that they had to harvest the human heat to keep the machines going in the Matrix. That's the same thing that's happening now. AI has an array of detrimental effects on us, not just making us question what we see and hear and making us just confused in general, but also filling that confusion with false entertainment. I hope this is making sense. Even just the idea of AI women and pornography. I'm going to bring this one up because it's something I've thought about before. As a man, depending on the type of man you are, that might sound like a dream. You can generate your literal fantasy here, probably for a small fee or even for free. You could get whatever you want by the click of a few buttons, and it will generate that video or whatever it may be for you. And for men, these things, pornography, I think fetishes, things like this, they are similar to the men's psyche as attention and validation for the female. It's addicting. It's a dopamine hit. It's an addicting dopamine hit. Perfectly construed for the male gender. Just like attention, social media, validation is the perfect dopamine hit to cause addiction in the female brain, okay? Now, when you have access to AI and you can generate whatever fantasy you might have, whatever your wildest fantasy may be, what is this going to cause in young boys and even young men? The lack of need to go out and seek a woman, okay? I mean, on the contrary, the society is creating masculine feminists. Why would any man want them to begin with? But do you see what I'm talking about here? It's going to create an even bigger divide between the two. Because men will no longer have that instinctual drive to become better to attract a good woman. Because why would they? They don't need to do any work. They don't need to spend money to go on dates. They don't need to go to the gym to get fit. They don't need to get rich anymore. Because they can just have all this access to unlimited satisfaction on a computer with an AI. With the access to AI technology. Everything real loses its value and you no longer need it anymore. And on the contrary, for women, they will simply become even more degenerate, I believe. And I believe the dislike towards men will grow even bigger because women, feminists in particular, look for any reason to separate themselves further and to degrade the male, degrade the man. So that's a whole nother issue in this that I have thought about quite frequently, is just the lack of need for one another once this AI epidemic spreads even more than it's already spread. They're not giving us access to these things for no reason. If you haven't ever thought about that before, why would they want us to have ChatGPT? Why would they want the public to have access to these things? Well, first of all, of course, it's to make us dumber. Give access for a few years. I'm not sure how long they're going to give us access to these things for, but it's not going to be forever. I remember when ChatGPT came out and it was completely free. I was one of the first people in my circle to know about it, and it was completely free. I remember that just a few years ago. Now you can barely type in any prompts and it's already charging you for that. So let's circle back around to my original thought here in this topic. Why would they give the public access to all these things? Well, they don't care about us. So why would they give it to us? To make us dumber, to make us more reliant, to make us less sharp, to make us lose our skills, our survival skills, our thinking skills, our math skills, our anything skills. We're going to lose it all. It's going to strip it from us, make our brains more flat. And I believe what's going to happen, I don't have any proof of this, but this is my theory. What I believe is going to happen is that eventually, when enough people are dependent on it and enough people can't function without it, they're going to charge astronomical fees. Or you're going to have to be a good slave to be able to get your access for the month, to access these AI things, to be able to continue to operate your daily life. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play out, but I know for sure it's suspicious that we have access. We have so much access to these technologies. It's not going to last. So you better have a backup plan. If you're not the creator of an AI platform, then it's kind of like you need to be rethinking what you're doing, because if you're not the creator of that platform and you're a consumer, that's not going to end well for you. It's very obvious to me, and it's kind of been obvious to me from not exactly the very beginning, but not too long after ChatGPT and other AI platforms were being rolled out. They're actively replacing employees without the employees noticing. The employees think that this AI is to help make their jobs easier. Are you kidding me? Can you use your critical thinking skills for a second? AI is being trained to replace you. And once you are replaced, where are you going to go? Has no one thought about this? There's so many people I know in the real world that are actively being replaced and they don't even know it and they don't care. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a big, big issue in just a few years for these people. A lot of people are going to be suffering hard. They're going to be suffering hard. You're going to have a social credit score. It's going to be monitored by AI. I'm seeing flock cameras be put up everywhere. They're monitoring every movement you are making. The flock cameras, they can tell your car just by a small scratch on your bumper. They're setting up the 15-minute city idea right in front of your face. They're going to make everyone have electric cars so that they can turn off your car if you violate the AI law. AI can fool people, and it's going to fool people, and it is fooling people. I don't think that in and of itself is the scary part. What I think is the scary part is that eventually and already People will never know when they're being fooled or if they're being fooled. When I look at the world around us and when I experience daily interactions with the people that I care about in my life and I try to explain things to them, it really reminds me of Plato's allegory of the cave. In the seventh book of the Republic, 2,400 years ago, Plato wrote an allegory of the cave, and many of you may be familiar with it, but basically he was using an illustration of three men chained up in a cave, and they could only face one way. And over the years or over the time that they were chained up, the only things that they ever saw were shadows on the cave wall passing by, different things, different objects. That was the only reality they knew. One of the men got free and he got to experience the real world. And when he came back to try to free the other men that were chained up, they thought he was crazy. They resisted it. They did not want to be freed because the reality that they knew was the only reality that they wanted to see, that they wanted to believe. That was all that they knew. And they thought that he was crazy. Anyways, he used that allegory to try and explain how it feels or how it felt to be a philosopher back in his day. And I'm no philosopher by any means. I'm not trying to compare myself to Plato. But in this world, in this crazy world where we're being forced to question what we see, question what we hear, question what we're told, question everything, it's really important to try and seek true reality, if that makes any sense. Maybe it doesn't make sense, but these are just my thoughts today, guys, and protect your minds.